On this page, the directions say, write and draw what you know about the water cycle. Use arrows to show the cycle. Use the words condensation, evaporation, and precipitation. So I'm going to walk you through the arrows that you need to draw and the words through the water cycle. So the first one we're going to start with is, if you look at this river flowing down here at the bottom, that's where our main source of water is going to come from. So a lot of the water is from a large body of water that starts by going up into our atmosphere and our sky. And that takes the form of water vapor. And when the sun hits this water and it turns it into water vapor in our air, it's called evaporation. The next step in the cycle is when the water vapor that's already in the air cools a little bit. And when it cools, then it turns into clouds, fog, or sometimes we even see dew on the ground. This is called condensation. From there, after the water is in the clouds, once that water becomes really concentrated and really heavy, it falls back to Earth. Sometimes it's rain, sometimes it's snow, sometimes it's even sleet. But when water falls from clouds, it's called precipitation. There are some other important parts to the water cycle that happen, but these are the three main things that we want you to learn from this lesson. If you'd like to put the next two things on your picture, you may. When snow or ice, like you can see from up here on this mountaintop, when they melt and they run from this high place to a lower place, like down in the valley, that's called runoff, because the water is running off of a surface. So water that is runoff can either collect as groundwater and be absorbed into the soil, or it can run directly into another water source, like this river, for example. The last step, or the last part of the water cycle, is when trees and other green plants actually breathe out some of the water that they've been storing. So that water vapor gets released from their leaves and goes back into the atmosphere, and this is called transpiration. So all of these things are constantly happening all at the same time. So all of our water doesn't go up into the air and turn into clouds. We still have water in our soil. We still have water in the ocean. So we have water at all the stages of the water cycle all the time. So it's really interesting. They all have to work together to make this water cycle work. Our next page is in words describe the water cycle. So the first part that we started with was evaporation. So as the sun heats the water on the earth and causes it to turn into water vapor during evaporation. When the water vapor in the air cools, condensation occurs, and clouds, fog, or dew forms. The clouds become heavy with all that water in there, and precipitation happens when rain, snow, or sleet falls back to the ground. And remember those last two parts. Runoff happens when snow or ice melts and runs from a high place to a lower place. And transpiration means plants release extra water vapor into the air that they were storing in their leaves. And those are the steps of the water cycle.